Hello everyone, this is Martin Tent here again, and thanks for joining me for yet another guitar lesson. This is going to be my series on guitar scales. There'll be 10 videos in this entire series, and each one will be focusing on a different scale. And each of these scales are going to be scales that will be ones that you can move about on the neck. So if you can play it, say, based on the 5th string, so you can play that one on the 5th string, but you can also play it on different positions. So you can play this exact same one on the 6th string, or the 7th, the 8th. So basically, for each one of these scales that I'm going to show how you have to play in this entire series, you'll be able to move any of these scales anywhere along the neck as long as it's based on the 6th string. But you can play it started with the root being on any of the frets on the 6th string. But for the purpose of this lesson and for the other lessons in this series, I'm going to be focusing on showing you how to play each one of these based on the 5th fret right here on the 6th string. And the reason for that is by keeping everything based on the same fret for each scale throughout one series, it will cause less confusion. It will mean that when you're practicing the scale with the video, it will sound the same. If you try playing the exact same scale, you could be playing it correctly, but if you're playing it in a different position, it could still sound wrong because it's not the same notes. So when you're practicing along with these video lessons, I want you to make sure that you're basing it on the 5th string for each one of these scales that we're going to learn throughout this series. And because the 5th fret on the 6th string is A, it means that each one of these scales is going to be based on A. So for instance, A minor pentatonic, or A major, or A natural minor. Whatever one it is, they'll all be based on A. So bear that in mind throughout the series, that they're all going to be based on the 5th fret on the 6th, and they'll be all based on the key of A. So let's start off this entire series and this lesson with arguably the easiest and most common scale used by all guitar players, and that's including beginners to advanced players. All guitar players learn this scale at some point, and pretty much nearly all of them uses it at some point regardless of what level they're at. And I have covered in a previous lesson how to play the pentatonic minor scale based on the open position. But that is only really good if you want to play in the key of E minor and play on the open position. If you want to play it in another key other than E minor or even G major, you're going to have to learn to play it a different way, otherwise it won't work. If you're playing that scale and you're playing an E flat major, it's just not going to work because the notes aren't going to sound right. But you can play the pentatonic minor scale in a different key other than E minor. You can play it in A, you can play it in B, you can play it in C sharp, you can play it in E flat, anyone, so long as you're able to learn the shape where you can move it on anywhere on the neck. And that's what I'm going to show you today, how to play this particular shape. So let's get right to it. I'm going to zoom in on the neck and show you how to play this scale. Okay, so before we dive right into how to actually play this scale, I want to first of all just very quickly go over the basic theory behind this particular scale. In this case it's the minor pentatonic, and it's probably worth mentioning as well that this is going to apply to all the scales that we're going to cover in this series. For each one I'll quickly go through the theory bits behind each scale, and I'll tell you what the notes are for each of the scales, and then I'll show you how to play the scale, and then we'll break it down into each note and how to finger it and so on. So the basic theory behind the pentatonic, first of all, there's two reasons why it's called minor pentatonic, and it's pretty much within the name itself. Number one, it's a 5-note scale, hence why it's called pentatonic, because pentatonic basically means 5. So it's a 5-note scale, it's got 5 unique tones within the scale. And secondly, it's a minor scale, hence why it's got the word minor in it. So it's a scale with 5 notes that's based on the minor scale, and more specifically, it's based on the natural minor. It's just basically minus 2 notes, because a full natural minor scale has got 7 notes in it. I'll cover that more in a later lesson in this series on the natural minor scale. But all you need to know is that the difference between natural minor and pentatonic minor is that there are 2 notes that are going to be left out of the pentatonic. The pentatonic's only got 5 main notes, unique tones, and then it just repeats after that. So the different tones, the different notes for the scale for minor pentatonic are your root, which is your first note. Your second will be your minor third. Then you have your fourth, the fifth, and then the fifth and last one is your flat 7. Now in A minor pentatonic, that the notes would be, the root would be A, your minor third would be C, your fourth would be D, fifth would be E, and then your flat 7 would be G. And then you go back to your root A again, and you just repeat the exact same. A, C, D, E, G, root, flat third, fourth, fifth, flat 7. It's really as simple as that. Okay, so now that we've got the theory side of it out of the way, and hopefully that will make some more sense to you, this is how you actually play the scale, and this is what it sounds like. Alright, let's play it through again one more time, a little bit faster. Now, as you can see, it's pretty much based around the 5th position between the frets 5 and 8. And we're only going to be using the 1st, 3rd and 4th fingers when we're actually fretting the notes. Although bear in mind that when we'll be playing, like say, the 8th fret, all the other fingers will be on the frets behind it, on the same string. Then they'll be acting as support, so you're technically using all of your fingers, except for when you're using your 1st and 3rd. You'll only be using some. In the case of your 1st, you won't be just using your 1st. But when you're using your pinky, you have to use all 4 fingers on the string behind it, and that's to give it that extra support, so that you don't your hand isn't kind of waving about and you lose a bit control of the actual fretting of the note on the string. Keep all your fingers on the same string on the frets behind it, and you'll find that it's a lot easier to keep your hand rigid in position when you're fretting. It's just overall good posture for when you're playing the guitar. So for playing the actual scale, let's just break this down and go for each note one at a time. And it's actually really easy, so you should be able to get this one fairly quickly. But bear in mind that you need to be able to play with your pinky for this one, your forefinger. And I know a lot of players that are not comfortable using their pinky. If you're not comfortable using that pinky, you're going to struggle to learn not just this skill, but pretty much all the other skills in this video lesson series on skills. So I highly recommend that you become comfortable using your pinky and not just using these 3 fingers before you really start to get into these scales. If you don't use your pinky, you're going to really struggle with a lot of these that we're going to cover in this series. So to play the scale, I'm going to start off with the 1st finger on the 5th fret of the 6th string. Then we're going to, with our 4th finger, we're going to play the 8th fret on the 6th. So far we have 1st on the 5th, 4th on the 8th, and then we're going to go over to your A string now, play the 5th on the A. Then we're going to play 7 on the A, and that'll be with your 3rd finger. So far we have 5th on the 6th, 8th on the 6th, 5th on the 5th, 7 on the 5th. And then, believe it or not, after that, you do the exact same thing that you do on the 5th string. 5 and 7, just do that on the 4th string and the 3rd string now. So you have so as you can see, for those 3 fingers, the movement with your fingers is exactly the same. Just practice that slowly though. When you're first learning it, you'll need to do this really, really slowly in order for your fingers to get used to it. But the movement is pretty straightforward. Once you can do your movement from your 1st to your 4th, and then do the same with your 1st to your 3rd, you've pretty much got this skill down. You just need to practice it on the different strings. So starting from here. So far we've got from the 6th string, and we're now on the 7th fret of the G string. So now we'll be putting your 1st finger on the 5th fret of B string, but this time I'm going to use a pinky again, put that on the 8th of the B string. So in other words, it's the same as what you did on the 6th string. We're just going to put that up here on the 2nd of B string. And then just do the same thing, 5th and 8th on the high E. So again, starting on the 6th string, 5th with your 1st, then 8th with your 4th, 5th with your 1st on the A string, then 3rd still on the A but with your 3rd finger, then do the same thing on the 4th string, then same on the 3rd, then 1st on the 2nd string, 8th, then do the same thing on the high E. So altogether that would be this time I'm going to play it again, but this time I'll call out the names for each note so you know where the notes are and you get an idea of where the roots are, where the flat 3rd is, where the flat 7th is, and so on. So, the first note is A, obviously because it's the root, so that's your A. The C is your next one, and we're moving over to the A string, that's your D, then move up, that's your E. Now let's go over to the 4th string, is your flat 7, your G, and then the next note is going to be A again. So this is we're back to the root again. We'll just repeat the cycle again of notes where it's A, C, D, E and G. Just repeat back to A again. So in other words, as this is an A, it means that this is an octave higher than this note down here, because they're both A's, just a different pitch. So after this A, we've got C again on the 5th of G, then we've got D again on the 7th, then E, then the G again up here, and then the first note on the high E is going to be back A again, and that's 2 octaves higher than that note. So your root notes for this scale are here, here, and here, or 5th on the 6th string, 7th on the D string, and 5th on the high E or 1st string. And then the last note of the scale is high C on the 8th of 1st string. So A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C. Come back down again, it'll be C, A, G, E, D, C, A, So now that we've learned the scale, let's just practice it up and down a few times at a nice slow tempo, so we can just get used to the fingering of the scale and getting used to the feel of going up and down. And when you're playing this scale, and indeed any scale, make sure that your fingers are at a nice degree angle, like I'm showing you here. Don't put your hand like this at a vertical, because that's just going to be very uncomfortable and awkward. Make sure that it's just coming off just at a slight angle like this, so, and that way it's nice and comfortable, and you should be able to move it easily. Oh, make sure that also that your thumb is resting at the back of the guitar like that. And again, that's to help you get a nice grip and make it comfortable playing each note and on the strings without any excess tension or loss of control when you're trying to play these notes. So let's try going up and down a few times for the scale right now. Nice slow tempo. So here we go.